Hi there. Every Sunday, a group of autistic people get together and drop in. It's an informal group, but some of the things that people say deserve a bigger audience. So they give us permission for us to put them in an edited reel, and that's what we're here for. Today's edited reel of the conversations that we have about our own autism. Cheers, enjoy.
Hi there, how's everyone?
I'll tell you what, I'm making sure I'm fine. I'm just knackered. All right, Jules, over to you.
I'm over in Amsterdam, Raymond, so I've been partying a bit.
Okay,
So tired.
so that's a hotel room.
Yeah, I got a deal. I had a load of points collected over the years.
So on the road again.
Yeah, I've just checked in to fly back tomorrow. Anyway, I'll probably turn off the mic so
I'm
the
just going to
camera.
get some tea.
I'm speaking on a headset connected to a mobile phone. I've got that just connected into a normal Android phone that's running Chrome.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a really good response to putting up my little interview that we did, my little session. I put that up on Substack, and it's done really, yeah. So I was very pleased with that. I've also got my undercurrent stories that has gone up as well, but I'm going to wait a couple of weeks before I take that one on there as well. I want that one. I want the R1 to be sitting there first at the moment.
Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? You've got to, if you put something out, you've got to let it ride.
Oh yeah, no, I basically I use it up and wear it out if I like to kind
Exactly.
of keep it there for a bit. And there's no point in me rushing and putting something in front of it. If I've got something that is like doing all right, I'll leave it there. I do have something to put up tomorrow, but because it's starting to run down a little bit, and I've got to start building up people again. But yeah, it's like a constant thing, this Substack. I didn't think I'd be doing this much.
Yeah, it's finding that balance, isn't it? You don't want to start to envisage how it could be too big too quickly, because you'll feel as though you're always running towards that. It's quite difficult to pace yourself in these things, I think.
Yeah, and it's a real sense of having to keep dipping your toe in and seeing what works and what doesn't. I did one piece a while back about going out socially, and it's had 700-800 views or whatever. And then there's other things that just said naffle, and you think, okay, so it's trying to work out what works with people, what people can connect with. The piece I'm putting up next is actually about my father, who was probably one of the most autistic people I ever knew, although he actually used it completely to his advantage. So I've done that, and I think it might be quite a nice one. So that's coming up. It's being edited in the next room by Dave at the moment.
I'm impressed you got 700 views. Is that just through looking at your stats, or?
Yes, just for my stats. It's what I do is, obviously I've got people on Facebook as well, but I've managed to build up a very small subscriber stack. But I don't know how this works, whether like the more you get, the more they push it, or I'm not sure how it completely works at the moment, but I think it must have resonated more than maybe other things I've done.
It's not that you're using any kind of words like tags or anything like that.
Oh, I know. I tag every single one. I do tag, and I use basically, you can use keywords but at the same time, I'm using the same keywords every time because I'm still trying to reach that same audience. I might add a few on or take a few off if I don't like them, and that sort of thing. But I'm generally speaking, yeah, every single one has got tags on so that it hits the right people.
It may be quite a hungry market then for some of those words. I always thought like networking was the main way to draw attention, because friends of friends, people will look at what other people look at, whereas you can be whistling in the wind for years on some of these platforms.
Yeah, you're right. I did get a recommendation from somebody who's got quite a big Substack following early on, which was great. And so there was Julianne, who's a friend of mine, musician, and
Oh
she's
yeah,
got,
all
yeah,
about Eve. Yeah.
yeah, that's her, yeah. So she tagged me, she shared my stuff, and that was really, really helpful because then some of her friends jumped on board mine as well. I've only got about 40 subscribers. I think it's 40 now. But for me, that sounds quite a lot.
That's what we used to call the long tail phenomenon. You get somebody who's got quite an impact and a high readership, and you piggyback onto their readership either by responding to them, commenting on what they say, or becoming quite important to them in some way so that they cross refer you to other people.
Yeah, we've known her for a little while through one thing and another. But and it's like having a slipstream, really, so that people are jumping and going, okay, she's recommending it, and then I'm getting that little bit of spillover. It's not huge, and I won't get that again. Won't get that push again because I don't really know anybody else that's going to have that followership. But at the same time, I'm just happy for what I've got.
Yes, there's lots of different platforms and ways of doing this kind of work that you're doing. I've noticed that there's a kind of phenomenon now. A lot of people leaving Twitter, so they're looking at Blue Sky, which is like the left-wing Twitter, if you want to call it something. But that's it's a difficult place to gain traction on as well, because still, if you've got a lot of people on that can be quite important. Again, it's an age group thing, Facebook. But that's about all I've got to say, I think, about social media just now.
I made myself a Twitter account years ago, and then I fell out of it because I really didn't like the atmosphere there. It was great at one point, but then it just fell away. And I've been on there since, because when you're trying to promote something, you want to try every platform you can. So I tried that, even Instagram and things like that. I just can't get traction there. I've got a lot of friends on Facebook and they're really good and they share it around. So maybe that's the way to go. And maybe that's the audience I want as well, really.
Yeah, it's old school now, Facebook. It's like the original. It was like a hyped up messenger when it arrived. I remember that. You can put a face to the person you're talking to on Messenger. Yeah.
Yeah, it's when we all jumped over from, what was it, MySpace, and everybody went MySpace and everybody went crazy on that for a while, and then that died, and then Facebook rose, and that's where we are now. I don't know, it won't be forever, will it? And they say that it's for old people. Facebook is for old people now, and the young people go elsewhere, but I've got nothing to say to them anyway.
All of these seem to cross-pollinate. You don't have to do a huge amount of work over all of the platforms. Just find the one you're comfortable with, and then the search engines, etc., will cross-pollinate it.
I think that's pretty much where I am anyways, to be honest. Maybe it's apathy, really. I'm not going to be pushing on other platforms, because if I don't get anything back, or if nothing bounces back from there, then I'm not going to put too much work into it. I've got enough to do anyway. And I think I've got enough stuff out there that I can rely on friends to share and all sorts, and to comment. And so I'm not really pushing anything else. If it does cross-pollinate, great.
It depends on what you love doing. If it's text, if it's writing that you're into, then great. I think you've found a good medium. Others who are more visually orientated and have, say, the equipment and the nous to make videos go to YouTube, I think, and remain there. It's all business models. But if you're into text and you want to get feedback from other people who are using text, you're on a good one just now, I think.
Yeah, and I'm really not one for cameras. Don't want to be on them. I'm quite camera shy, and I don't really want to do that. So I don't think I could do Facebook, YouTube with any sense of confidence. And I'd need someone else to bounce off of, and it would be just me. So I've never really thought about doing that. I always preferred the idea of either voice or text.
There's a huge difference in the editing process if you're using a video podcast medium. It's much easier to strip it all down in audio because you don't have that need to keep things that you would otherwise take out just because the video on screen would look chopped about. If you do things in audio or in text only, it means you can refine that editing down. Your text can become more poetic and shorter, and your audio can become pithier. What I see is the podcast medium moving so far towards video that the audio part of it is rough and everything's a bit too long because it's harder to edit it out.
Yeah, it's like when radio stations began to go visual, and you can see that the priorities have shifted because they're self-conscious about their appearance. And I suppose with radio you can keep it quite basic, although sometimes it's nice to take artistic license and maybe put a bit of incidental sound in there and do some sound tracking or mood piece. But at that point you're getting, I think, beyond yourself if you're purely interested in the basic message.
I think for me, I need it stripped down as much as possible. I don't like long historic novels with lots of background description, and I can make all those images myself from very sparse numbers of words if it's poetic. So it's this domination of how you're supposed to see it, either by too many words being thrown at you lyrically, or in this case, too much image being thrown at you. I like the sparseness of text and the sparseness of radio.
I'm an audiobook person. I really like audiobooks because number one, I listen to them in the evenings when I'm winding down, and it gives my head something to do and chew over before I go to sleep. But I like to be able to have that ability to imagine and to fill it in with my own kind of thoughts and my own pictures. So I do that a lot. I have Audible on every evening on my headphones, and I find it's really comforting, and it's better than having video a lot of the time.
Yeah, I like audiobooks too because I can't afford to pay for someone to come and read books to me. There was this French thing, I think it was called lectrice or something. I can't remember what the word is, but it's someone who reads to you professionally, because I enjoy hearing things read out loud as well as focusing on text. But sometimes, yeah, it's great for novels, audiobooks, but if you want to say maybe get into something like reference or maybe even philosophy, none of them are an audiobook really, which is a shame.
I'm really interested in what you're saying there because it chimes with something that I think is one of the long-term goals of autistic radio. I think making things that are in text at the moment, either actually pieces from blogs like Lucy's or pieces from Substacks, but also reference books and new pieces and information that's put out there in an audio form is a way of really increasing accessibility to people, but it's also a comfort. I'm very much up for in a couple of years' time us having a regular recording slot where we make a lot of this stuff and put it out there for people.
And I think being able to hear other people's voices and conversations is quite a calming, nice thing. I don't hear a lot of other people's voices, so it's nice to be able to hear conversation, be part of conversation, hear other people's voices, and yeah, it would be nice to have sort of people to be like that people to have that facility just to listen and be part of.
Kind of hopeful that AI in the future might get refined enough to be almost human sounding in its virtuality. I've often had the computer read books back to me, and it's quite an alienating experience at the best of times. But it's getting better. Some of them are really good, like Microsoft Edge browsers, voices and things like that. But they struggle with French terms, though. Hopefully that will get better and you will be able to just put a digital form of text through an app and have it read back in a voice of your choosing.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much there already to some degree. There are podcasts that are being produced entirely by AI. There is still a bit of a robotic stuff about them. I was played a bit by one of our contributors, and I told him how much I hated it, where what he had done was, as an experiment, he had put a recent paper that he was interested in, and we were talking about autism, into an AI generator, and it produced this newscast type radio program that you might find on a very small local radio station, where everybody sounds as though they are on so much caffeine and very neurotypical filling, lots of bridging and words and extra stuff where it wasn't necessary. It had been taught basically to be trash.
Yeah, it's all in the prompting. You can prompt them to read back to you in styles, in formats, in moods, and they'll get better and better at that.
I think the two-way conversations with AI are the things that are going to really start revolutionizing things. I think the personal virtual friend in all its different forms, whether it be an app or whether it actually be a physical object or whether it be a screen or some kind of interface in your own home or house or follows you around with you, I think that's not very far away in some of the experimentations that we've seen in the Far East.
I've got to say, sorry.
Sorry. No, go for it.
No, I was going to say, I don't know where I stand with AI. I really don't. I don't like it. There's something about it I don't like. And I think it's because it's generated. It's not a real thing. I don't know. At the moment, I'm still very much on the fence whether I like it or not.
Yeah, that was my original feeling. Although I've grown to take it for what it is, which is the way you would take a book or any other form of technology or media. Yeah, I was going to say something there, but it's gone now.
Good evening.
Good evening, Harry.
I hope you weren't worried about me. I'm just using this sort of drop-in kind of structure, and I thought, don't rush. It's a drop-in. I'll be in when I'm in. I'm sure there'll be other people there having a conversation once I come in, and that's exactly what was going on when I was coming in. So it's good to hear you all. The talk about AI, an interesting one. It's not something I'm quite keen on, but I can understand why it gets used.
It's coming into everything now. It's part of browsers. I've noticed now that even without me asking for it, it's offering its services as a wee side window. Do you want to probe a bit further into this? One of the original concerns about it all was like surveillance as well. When Alexa first appeared and stuff, oh God, this machine in my home's monitoring me. But I think that's the deal now with most of the stuff people use technology-wise.
Yes, I would say so. You've been monitored anyway. On Facebook alone, I keep getting adverts for the script because I've used it in the past. And not just them, but other editing software, doing podcasts or whatever. And it just shows you've been monitored anyway. And you were monitored before all this. I mean, your bank card, phone, your home phone. People seem to think that, oh, this surveillance, all this people watching you is a very modern thing. But it's not. I don't think it's something we should worry about anyway.
I'm getting flashbacks of the days of GCHQ and how we all used to use code words when phoning each other.
I can imagine. It's the sort of thing in gangster films. The kind of coded kind of language you come out with. It doesn't make sense. You know what you're talking about because you know the storyline, but it's with the way it sounds like individually, it just sounds daft, but obviously it's deliberate. If you know the guy who done the thing, it's bringing a package to do a thing, and it's not even that direct. It's a bit more out there, but that's actually a good thing in terms of things that can be done, coded message, etc.
Going to see a man about a dog.
Aye.
Were you involved in a lot of the protest, or was it just continually being very canny as we watched technology growing in the 80s?
I think we were conditioned into speaking like that by our elders.
So I was just thinking about the fact that actually weren't even allowed to have a house phone. My dad wouldn't let us have one. And so I was probably way behind everybody, because by the time we actually got a house phone, I was already hitting my kind of older years, and it was quite a revelation to not have to go to a call box anyway. So
Ooh, the call box.
yeah, we would go down there a lot. We had one that was right up the top of a very tall hill, so we generally didn't make too many phone calls because of the walk.
When life itself was a drama.
That was South East London in the 1970s and 80s for you.
So how's your weekend? My weekend's actually been pretty good. And mine was up for a couple of days. And what I like when he comes up is like we don't do anything, we just stay in the house and just have a wee blather, watch your football, as background noise. It's just nice and relaxing. And it's the first kind of visitor I've had coming into my house for ages, because I don't generally have visitors, not because I don't let anybody in, it's because a lot of the time I'm actually going out or things like that. So it's always nice when somebody actually comes in, especially if it's a pal I've known for years. And it's just weird the way we're talking. We're in our 40s, but we talk like old men. And because we've known each other for so long, since college in the late 90s, it's just... And his life is a lot different than mine. He's had a family, he's got a few children. He's got his oldest is in their 20s. It's just... Yeah, it's like we were talking about, I don't know if it was last week or the week before. It was sometimes recently anyway. It was talking about feeling lonely, the sort of being of feeling alone. I appreciate being alone, but sometimes feeling that you need a bit of company. And I got it this weekend and I actually feel quite buzzed on it, because not just have I had that company today physically and yesterday, I'm getting it just now. And I'm also looking forward to when it's finished, when it's all quiet again. It's amazing the balance of life and how the mind goes.
I suppose I'm quite doing the opposite at the moment. I've been in Amsterdam for a few days. I've been incredibly anonymous. And I'm dressed unconventionally, hat, big leather coat, boots, that kind of thing. Soft sort of punky jumper from the old days, and also the fact that I'm this age makes me very anonymous as well. So I'm doing the opposite to you. It's like a withdrawal from having to be social, and only having a few little interactions during the day, and a lot of, I don't know, drug induced or medicated holiday time in between.
Yeah, I'll be doing that next week actually. The social thing, being out in public, because it's next Sunday that I travel to Brighton. Stay over on the Sunday night. There's a union conference I'm going to, Unite Community Branch Conference for the UK and Ireland. And I'm there the whole Monday. And then I go home on the Tuesday. And then, because of the length of time it'll take me, it's going to be like 3 days of conditioning and adjusting myself to be without, not just within company I'm speaking to, in the public, as in being out in the public and feeling exposed. Because I live alone, it's a big deal when you're going out doing something different like that for at least 3 days. I'm looking forward to it, but maybe I'm not looking too forward to the travelling in fairness, but I'm looking forward to it being finished so that I can wind down and feel I've recovered from it. The thing I'm trying not to do is think too far ahead. There's another week to go, so just appreciate the now. Sometimes it's good to plan ahead to keep yourself right. especially when it's something like adjusting to environments that you're not used to.
I almost get anxious, Harry, just hearing you talking about it.
I'm getting not dead anxious, but this kind of feeling over me when I'm talking about it, because I've got pictures in my head of what I'll be doing. Be getting a train from where I live to Glasgow. Thankfully it's a Sunday, so it goes direct to Glasgow Central. Any other day of the week I'd need to change trains again. But the longest part is from Glasgow Central all the way to London Euston. But the way it's set up, and I'm going with other people, but the way it's been booked by the union, we're sitting separate. So I'm going to be sitting next to strangers. I've done that before when we went to Birmingham a couple of years ago, but I didn't expect it at that time, so I actually got frustrated and quite wound up within myself. But now that I'm expecting this, I can prepare for it, and I've got earphones and I've got a book and things like that. I spoke about it last week, but just thinking about it though, just thinking about that what I'm going to be doing, it's like we kind of feeling of, oh, don't think about it too soon, just deal when it happens.
I was going to ask if you were going with someone. That's unfortunate that you're all being separated as well, but fair enough. Is that what they call body doubling in the autistic community? When you get someone to almost escort you places? Oh no, body doubling is when someone does the same activity as you to encourage you, isn't it?
I think so. Basically, all I'm doing is just travelling with other people that are going to the event. No idea whether they're autistic or not. I think the frustrating thing of it is because a couple of years ago when we were doing it before, I had it in a picture in my head that would be sitting maybe 2 seats, maybe 4 seats together and talking while travelling and talking and familiar stuff that we talk about elsewhere and getting to know each other, because I don't really know them, because when we're talking, we're at meetings and it's talking about business. We talk sometimes, but we don't really have enough time because there's usually a big group of us. If you don't have a chance to very often to actually kind of talk 1-to-1 or even 1-to-2 or 3, and it just disappoints and taunted me, and I was hoping this time they would put us together. But saying that, it's always not an easy thing to do. A train from Glasgow to London is always going to be quite busy, so they can only allocate what they can get allocated.
Do you feel, Harry, you're better with people you don't know than with people you do know when you're going to events, say, or anticipating things that are coming up in the future?
It depends who the people are. If it's people that I'm friendly with and feel comfortable with in other ways, I'd rather that was with them. Being alone sometimes makes it a bit apprehensive if it's something completely new. For instance, being on a bus and waiting for the bus stop that I'm not used to going to, when to stand up and just relax, rather than somebody being there and saying, "Oh, the stop's there," then they'll get up and you follow them. Thing. Or even if you do it first, it's somebody with you. No, I'd rather with somebody that I know. The familiarity helps relax when you're in unfamiliar environments.
I recall thinking once that being on a bus with one of my cousins would help, or even a friend, because I used to get quite a lot of anxiety travelling on buses, even in the town. And my cousin was there and he couldn't work out why I was getting really frantic, and then eventually just leapt off the bus halfway through the journey. And so that kind of confirmed for me that even having someone I knew that I liked and was comfortable with still didn't reduce the anxiety I was feeling on buses, which was quite strange.
I did a bit of travelling kind of earlier this month, and I actually went to Brighton from here, from home, and I went to Manchester as well. And I found the whole thing, just organising it was the problem for me, because I was booking my own tickets and sorting out my own connections and doing all that sort of thing. I have to do it myself because I've got to get it all straight in my head. So it's generally sort of me sitting there micromanaging the journey. And I do the same thing. I picture the journey. I get pictures in my head, what it's going to look like as I go from station to station or place to place. And that Brighton's okay because I've been there loads, but I'd never been to Manchester before. So the anxiety was quite bad at that point. We went to Las Vegas some years back as well. And there was like, we had to do connections and things like that. And I was all over the place. I really was. It's like traveling is quite anxiety building for me.
The anxiety that I've got for next particular weekend is going to London, even if it's just the railway station or going to station, because I'm going to London and then I need to go somewhere else, maybe it's the same station, and go and get another train or underground, I'm not entirely sure. I've got the tickets and that. It's just, when I think of London, I think of this big, massive city that people talk about, full of people, very busy, people in the way, you're in other people's way, and it's just, I'm not a big fan of that sort of environment. It probably won't end up being like that, but sometimes you just get this sort of thing in your head, the assumptions you make. And with the assumptions you make, you try and prepare yourself for the worst case scenario so that you're able to cope with the worst case scenario. But if you think too much about the worst case scenario, you worry yourself a bit too much, and then it's not very good for your health either. It's a balancing act, really. But I need to try and say to myself, look, this is a journey you've not done before, it's something new. I usually, not complain, but I usually get annoyed at myself. I've made my life too comfortable that I do the same thing generally in my routine of life. I don't travel very far very often. Even going to Glasgow from where I live, I don't do that a lot anymore, so it's something new, a wee adventure. Just enjoy it. I didn't pay for the tickets. I didn't organise anything, it was all done for me. I didn't organise where I'm staying, what hotel I'm staying, so it was all done for me. So basically all I need to do is look after myself, which I'm more than capable of doing, and just enjoy the journey, and then just take it as it comes. And then if anything does happen, we bumps along the way, we'll end up kind of sitting in the pub at the end of the day and having a talk about it, probably laughing at the carry on anyway, as you do sometimes.
I think the fella Autism Adventures Abroad is arranging escorted tours so that autistic people can do more adventurous things and things that would be outside their comfort zone. But I lost interest in it because it was aimed, I think, towards the top end of everything, the people who can afford specialist things before they trickle down and become more available.
I used to be okay with travelling, especially on my own, until the 1990s. Something happened. I still haven't worked it out, in my early 30s. And it's almost like I've got PTSD now. The experience of travelling relives some kind of internalised trauma, but I can't pin it down on anything in particular. Although I did do an awful lot of overnight bus trips to London from Edinburgh, because my ex moved down there to become a student nurse. And rather than us break up, this was the arrangement until I moved down to London. And I think that might have been when it really hit me. But it was more than buses. It was to do with congested, built-up places. Too many people, a kind of agoraphobia.
Actually, it's strange because obviously I live in a small place now. I live in Salisbury. It's not a big, expansive, bustling place. And I did obviously spend most of my life living in London. But it's really strange how you readapt. So I live here and it's little and everything. If I get on a train and go to London, I now notice how busy it is and how bustling it is and how loud it is and how people walk past you as if you're nothing and you're street furniture. I lived there for most of my life and I never noticed that before. I just adapted to it and was part of it and part of that movement. And as soon as I came away and moved somewhere quiet, I lost that ability to just be part of that big crowd and that expanse. And it's not something I've been able to get back.
London can have a sense of a village mentality to it sometimes, so if you're not really travelling around London a lot, although if you're using the tube, that's unavoidable. But I lived in Enfield, which is North London, which is really Middlesex. And so the trips into the centre were epic. But you could ignore that or forget about it by being in North London, which had its own kind of vibe to it.
You're totally right, because I was southeast London, but I moved into northwest London when I got married. And it's like there are sections of London. I don't know much about East London, and I didn't know much about West London at all. It's like you stay in your little quarter, and that's where you're naturalised. And other parts of London do feel a bit alien when you go there.
I watched some YouTube videos this week about travelling, an autistic person travelling, and it was this woman called Mika, M-I-C-A. I don't know if you are aware of her. She has another name, is it Emma or Irma, on YouTube. But they were really quite good videos, quite well produced, explained, good thought processes. But there was one in particular when she was recalling her history and coming back from being a bit of a hippie towards her diagnosis. She started to mention the weirder side of the autistic community, the ones who believe in, you're probably aware of it, what they call the starseed and the alien narrative. It's all just storytelling, but it looked a bit sinister at points as well. Just to be aware of that, I don't know, it was just one of these things I'm encountering in my journey. One of these days during these silences, I'm going to start talking about a lot of stuff, and I'm not going to switch mute on or off, because I just got that feeling there that I'd just been speaking and it wasn't unmuted. It's just a strange vibe there.
Talking about being in amongst the public, out with travelling, although this is set within the railway station. What I did on Friday was meet up with them for a cup of coffee in a busy coffee shop in Glasgow, Argyle Street, and that was good. Just sitting in one place for a couple of hours having a chat and catching up, as we generally do. We meet up like once a month, sometimes in the coffee shop, sometimes we go to a pub. And then afterwards I was planning to meet my pal who's come from another part of Glasgow and connecting in to get into Glasgow Central to come with me to come in my house. And the thing that always gets me is when I'm waiting on him, is you stand still in Glasgow Central Station on a Friday night, or any night, but especially on a Friday night, and you stand in the corner out the way, all you see is people and just constant movement, constant stress, constant people in a hurry, constant everything. And I'm glad I'm not here every day. And there was a wee bit of a delay as well, but we managed to get out of there quite quickly. There was even seats on the train, thankfully. I was thinking ahead, oh, that's dead busy, there'll not be any seats in the train, but there was, so that's another story. But it's just find it fascinating. I've done it in a Glasgow street as well when I'm waiting on someone, or maybe standing at the bus stop or whatever. It's just the constant directions of people doing their thing, people just get on with life, and how much of a headache that can be if you look at it too long. It's fascinating, but quite anxiety inducing at the same time.
Have you ever gone to the south side of Glasgow, Harry, to the more arty side, Glasgow School of Art and places like that?
Yeah, I've been there. My friend actually lives in the south side of Glasgow. He lives in across Maloof, just along the road from the Shawlands. And he's actually lived, not all over, but he's lived in different kind of houses, generally on that side. So I've been like in Pollock and Pollock Sheep, Ibrox, those places, although he did have a stint on the other side of the river in Easterhouse. So I've been about Glasgow over the years and arranging different kind of transport to get to there from my house. And the easiest one was actually when he stayed in Easterhouse, because the train from Balloch, from the nearest station to me, actually goes direct to that area. But when you're going to the south of Glasgow, you've got to change to go over the river. So I've been all over Glasgow. And I've been at the Denniston and all that, because my brother and sister stay there. So I've been in different parts of Glasgow. And I went to Cardonald College as well, so I was down that way. And I've been in Pollock Park, and I've been in the Borough Collection and all that stuff. There's things I've seen and quite appreciated. And there's other things that I haven't appreciated.
I take everything that people have been saying about the stress that comes with going on a journey, and I think all my life, right from when I was a kid, and I was practicing going on a bus by going one stop along the bus route for my tuppence, so that I had got on the bus, spoken to the driver, got off the bus, got my ticket, and then gradually making that so that I could go into the local town on my own. It feels as though I've been doing that all my life. So for some autistic people, it turns out that taking these things as a gradual challenge over, you get to do things that you wouldn't otherwise do. And if you can do it with a bit of balance, you don't make these things go away, but you stop them from being so much of a challenge, and the world gets bigger and more stuff, and you understand more stuff somehow. I don't know.
I suppose it's a balance as well. Sometimes I'm thinking my world being quite small, it's good because it's nice and comfortable, and I appreciate it most of the time. But then sometimes you go, I'm getting bored here, I need to expand a little. Sometimes you've got to try new things out, like travelling, like trying something new as well. I've done that a few times. I understand what you're talking about the travelling. It's like used to something, training yourself up thing, and it can work. In a way, I've been training myself up to travel to London, travelling to Glasgow. It's nothing like it'll be, but it's like you're travelling into a city where it's busy. Travelling into a railway station, it's going to be busy. You're travelling into an environment, it's all hustle and bustle. And that sort of helps you have some sort of buffer, rather being like in the house and just being in a wee village or in a wee town and not being out, not experienced it. So yeah, there's different ways of preparing yourself. It's a weird thing. It's a thing of over preparing and actually preparing the right way, so you don't feel you're going to be caught out. Because I think that's the thing. The fear is that I always have is I'll get caught out and I'll feel very not distressed, but it wouldn't be a nice feeling. And it's happened a few times. There's things you can't avoid, as I've talked about before, like trains or buses be cancelled or running late or whatever, and things happening, etc. with people's control. But it's good to have some sort of preparation in you because it helps. It's amazing how that does help you.
Yeah, I take on board what Jules says about expanding your horizons. A lot of what I've been doing recently has been expanding the horizons of the everyday and the mundane. That may sound limiting, but to me it's like the experience that I think travellers seek is that every day is a new story, a new moment, an opening to new experience. There's no promises. You can travel and you can go to a lot of places and have great intentions and come back quite disappointed because nothing really happened, or nothing that you expected to happen happened. But then again, something did happen, so you get some experience. Yeah, as Harry says, a bit of balance as well. Yeah.
I'm great for this concept of baby steps, of really small movements in a direction until you look backwards and you wonder at how far you've come, breaking everything down really consciously until it becomes manageable. I've probably taken it to quite extremes in my life. I've done a lot of that traveling stuff, sitting outside a hotel making this podcast right now. There's something in this for me about identity, and I think part of my autistic identity was curiosity and not wanting to be pigeonholed and limited by all this anxiety of doing things, and be challenged and find out where the trains went and have the railway timetable so you felt prepared. And when you left and you started hitchhiking around the UK when you were 16, on your back you had a place to sleep and some food and a way of cooking it. So everything had a fallback position, yeah, but it was still adventurous.
Yeah, I can almost see baby steps break down as it's almost part of what CBT uses to encounter things that you find too large to cope with when you exaggerate or overemphasize the challenge of something. You have to really, you can't take it on as you're seeing it. You have to move towards it in smaller ways. Yeah. But a lot of it is desire, what you desire to do or be.
Well, it's 5:44 now, so our drop-in hour is finished, and thank you to all the people who have texted, and also to the people who have put their voices to this, that are going to allow us to put some of those words out into the podcast. If you join us here at the 444, your voice isn't recorded, your text isn't recorded, but the people here have given permission so that it's an example for others. See you again, always reliably, Sunday, 4:44 p.m. Cheers, guys.